Okay, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Roll Mangging for our D&D 4th edition campaign, Adrift: Tides of Chaos. So last time it was just me and Ren just messing about on an island, doing some weird stuff. This time we got a bit more concrete with what our plans are to get off the island. And we were joined this time by Mr. Charlie Chalk, Richard Blackstone, Alex Johnson, whatever you want to call him. He was here in the flesh. He has never played 4th edition D&D before. I don't even know if he's played D&D before. I couldn't tell you. So this was his first 4th edition character, and what could be his first D&D character. And he made a Dragonborn Paladin of Kord. Kord is basically Crom from Conan, more or less. And, okay. So it started out with Rice out in the jungle, kind of doing his thing, and me in the village, having just agreed with Elaine to go speak to his sister in the Black Obelisk and retrieve the key to the ship in the volcano. So at the start of the session then, I got some food, I got some water, I got all that good stuff, and Benny was brought to me, and he was just he's part of my crew now. He'll do what I say, I guess. So I sent a telepathic message to Rice then saying, come and meet me at the village, new plan, blah blah blah. So he shows up. We head inside the village, and the natives are not a huge fan of us just wandering around, eating and drinking, and they don't like us. I have never done anything. Well, no, that's not true. I've killed some of the natives. Rice has killed some of the natives. We're not really. Yeah, they're not fond of us. And so, Rice kind of rests up, stocks up, all that. And I tell him the situation, how we got to go to this Black Obelisk, all that. And he tells me some info that he got from Gorv about how this sister is apparently kind of weird, but there's like a hidden secret path you can go to get to the obelisk. And yeah, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, well, we're not gonna. I don't have any intel on what we're gonna find there, so we just gotta head over there and see what happens. So we depart from the village, and right after we leave, a starving dragonborn pokes his head out at us and asks for assistance for food. And so we give him some food, and we speak to him. He's been stranded here for like a week or so. He's survived on his own, and he is desperately trying to get off the island. So just the kind of ally we could use, because he's not a native and he wants to get off the island. So he'll do what it takes to get off the island. And he's got a big sword on his back. So okay. So we bring him along, real quick and snappy. His name is Rhaegar, which, if I recall, is a name of a dragon from the Song of Ice and Fire series. Which is interesting, because I believe the last time Ziggy played a Dragonborn character, his name was Viserion. So, there you have it. Alright. So we headed across the island towards where this secret hidden path is supposed to be. And we kind of go up and down the coastline, but we eventually find a few caves, a few cave openings. So we look at each one of them. Only one really looks promising as likely being the hidden path. So we start trekking in there, and I'm leading up the rear. And after a little bit of hiking, we come across a circular cavern. And dissecting the cavern all across the middle is a large pool filled with some sort of bubbling liquid, about 20 feet across. Aha! A problem that needs to be solved. So, I mean, I could have already guessed what the liquid was, but Rhaegar decided to do some experimentation, and we discovered basically it was some sort of acid that dissolved living material. Okay. So, painful to wade across, probably. So I kind of sat there while he did his experimentation, and they discussed it. And I came to 3 solutions initially, and then later on a 4th one. Although Benny really thought up the first one, which was getting a huge 20-foot long log and just placing it across and walking across. Possible. It was just kind of a matter of manpower and time that it would take to find a log that large and bring it into this cave system. Like, it would be, this was kind of a windy cave entrance and all that, so it'd be like moving a couch in an apartment. It would be really tricky. I don't know if it would even work. And it would be a lot of wasted effort if we got the log and we couldn't get it in and blah, blah, blah. 2 was climbing. Since it was a cavern, it had walls along the side, so you could use a climbing kit to climb the side walls and kind of just traverse above the pool. Heavily dependent on athletic skill, and if you fall in the middle of your climb, you're really kind of screwed. 3 was gathering up a large number of rocks and building a rock bridge across the pool. But again, that was a matter of just taking an immense amount of time for only 4 men. And even then, I don't know. That would probably be the most surefire one if you just had like a week of time or something, but we didn't want to spend that much time, so that was kind of rough. And then later on, the 4th plan was to vault over. Just get a long branch and basically just pole vault across the pond. Rhaegar and Benny decided to go the climbing route. Rhaegar actually fell in the pool, and he charged his way out of there after taking like 13 damage pretty quickly. And he was taking like ongoing damage, so yeah, it's gonna hurt. Benny got across no problem, of course. I could have gotten myself across without any issue, but I generally can. When you develop a character based all around utility, you generally can look after yourself for most situations. But I'm also not a dick, so I have to, I have to think about the other people of the party. If it were just me, I could have easily just used Living Missile on myself, because it's a target of 1 creature, that includes yourself, and then I could have just slid myself 10 squares, and technically, I wouldn't take any damage, because I would never, the secondary target is a creature adjacent to it, and there wouldn't be any other creatures. So anyways, I could have gotten myself across, but it wouldn't have helped anything. So then it was Rice and myself on the other side of this pool, and we decided to go for the vault method, although really it all depended on athletics, so it was kind of a horse apiece, but I figured that the vaulting method had put us in a better situation if we were to fail. Like, if you fail the climbing, you basically just fall into the pool. If you fail the vault, I don't know, you still have some form of forward momentum to kind of aid you on your way over. So it's hard to say, but... so we found a branch. It didn't take us too long. We went back. Rice, his athletics is pretty nuts, so he vaulted over with no issue. Then I was just kind of based on the die roll, so I vaulted over all right, but I didn't quite make it over, so Rice caught me and I was fine. So we all made it across. Not an elegant solution to the problem, but if I were like level 9 or something, I could have just teleported everyone across. But anyways, that was alright. So we continued on, and we get into a much larger cavern filled with all sorts of, like, ruined obsidian buildings. Like, kind of like homes. And there was, like, an amphitheater in this cavern as well. And then at the far end, there was, like, a large chrome golem kind of thing, like 20 feet tall. And it was just kind of sitting there overlooking the ruined village. It's like, okay, this is probably all bad. Rhaegar immediately starts, like, wandering around the room, the buildings, looking for stuff. And Benny runs off to the amphitheater because he wants to check it out. Rice and I kind of just stand there and discuss our options. And, see, what he told me was that these two siblings on this island are keeping this enchantment going that draws ships in and causes them to crash. So they possess some magical ability. They have to. And, you know, you have a very, very, very difficult entrance into your black obsidian lair, which is just sulfur pits everywhere. And then you have one secret entrance. Likely, if you are a wizard of any sort, you're going to have some sort of scrying, magic, whatever, to keep watch on this hidden entrance. So really, stealth was never an option. They're going to know we're coming no matter what, unless we were magically obfuscated. So we weren't. Not to mention that Rhaegar was, like, roaring at the top of his lungs and stuff like that. So chances are, this woman, this sister, whatever, she knows we're coming. She knows we're in here. We're not going to stealth past anything. We just kind of have to be considerate, I guess, of her lair. So I didn't go into any of the buildings, and Benny comes running back from the amphitheater with a mask in his hands. And this thing basically looks like a skull. It looks like a death mask or something. And he, like, puts it on. He's like, oh, I really like this. And so I use Arcana on it, and I can tell there's some magical energies. And so I lie to Benny to hope that he doesn't keep wearing it, because I don't know what it is. I just know it's magical. So I tell him that if a person wears this or has it on their person for more than 12 hours, it will suck out their soul. And he's just like, oh, I'll be real careful then. And I'm like, I will weep for your soul, Benny. But he held on to it. So we're like, yeah, I mean, I guess there was, like, another doorway right next to the chrome golem, and that was the only way forward. So we're like, well, we got to just head over in that direction. You know, we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, that's sometimes how it goes. So we head over to this walkway, or this doorway, and we get right up to it, and it's just an open doorway, just nothing, no portcullis, no door, no nothing. So I use Arcana on the doorway because I'm sensible, and I find out that there's some sort of warding spell in effect. So I'm like, okay, it's either designed to not let us pass, or perhaps when we do try to pass, it will hurt us or send off an alarm or awake the golem. You know, there's no telling, but there's some spell here, and I can't disable it. I'm not a wizard. So we kind of sit there, and I think it was Rice or Rhaegar, I don't remember. One of them goes over to the golem and kind of just inspects it. Not long after, we hear a sliding noise coming from above, and we see a head pop out of like a window, and it's a female head. It's the sister, and so we begin a conversation in which I basically declare to her I am not in league with her brother at all. In fact, I plan on killing him because he's keeping slaves, and he's like using parasites to infect everyone and control them, and he's really just a damn horrible human being, and he's gonna die. He's gonna die for it. So she has the key. She knows what it's for, and she really has no interest in using it. So she's willing to give it to me if I deal with her brother. And I said that I will not leave the island alive. I will not leave the island with your brother still alive. And she trusted me. And so she said that the golem is at our disposal. That it's a very capable weapon, but not quite capable of destroying the entire village on its own. It would need some assistance, which we can provide. The other thing is, when the golem kind of woke up, it stood up and it pointed right at Benny. And she said, he is infected, or something like that. I don't remember what she said, but I'm like, yes, the parasite. I'm familiar with it. And so she's like, you must prove your trust by executing him immediately. And I'm like, is there a way to get rid of this other than death? And she said that she has been working on a way to try and remove the parasite without killing the host. It's experimental. And she'll need some time to prepare it, but it's possible, if you truly wish to spare his life. And I got nothing against Benny. It's not really his fault that he got infected. He's just, he's a victim here. So I don't want to kill him if I don't have to. So we spared his life temporarily. And so I'm just like, we're not going to be able to assault the village tonight. I'm going to need some time to prepare a plan. And so she said, I'll be here. My golem, my whatever is at your disposal. Blah, blah, blah. And so the golem helped us get back out, helped us cross the acid pool. And so then I went really into planning mode. It wasn't just assaulting this village full of natives with basically very few weapons other than clubs or anything like that. That's not the issue. I had a plan for that practically immediately. The issue was that there were a bunch of non-native slaves being held, including apparently children, in the village. We've not seen these slaves, but we've been told that they're being kept in there. If we just let the golem thing loose on the village, it will not have enough fine control to spare the slaves and kill everybody else. So we'd be putting them at complete risk by doing that. So the issue was extracting the slaves safely with us surviving, and then later launch the assault. And so I went into just deep planning mode here, just where I put my face in my hands, I try to block out the people talking, and I just try and think. And it's difficult. That's not an easy, I enjoy that. That's some of my favorite parts, is when I'm just in planning mode, but it's not easy because you can try and think of it just from a very realistic, optimistic point of view. Like, if I try to pull this off, with everything going how I think it would go, what would be the best case scenario. But then really how you need to think about it is what's most likely to happen in response to what we do. And that's really tricky because it's hard to tell. There's dice rolls you can plan for, but then there's surprise dice rolls you can never plan for, because that's how the DM works. I've talked about this so many times where nothing ever goes to plan, and it's always true. So, I came up with, I could come up with 30 different plans for extracting these kids and blowing up the village and killing them all and saving the day and blah, blah, blah. But the problem is all of them, or so many of them, might work. But there's so many risks involved, and some of them, it's tricky. I'll admit that it's tricky. Some of my plans were more complicated than others, and keep in mind, I didn't have like a week to come up with these. I had like 10 minutes, so it wasn't. The pressure was on, because people don't want to just sit there and wait for you to think. That is not to say that other people can't come up with plans. I'll always accept suggestions and, talking it out and whatever, figuring it out. But I like to take it upon myself to be the plan guy, because I enjoy it. You should do what you enjoy. So I thought about, it's a primitive people. So fear-mongering is an option. Working just from the outside, working from the inside, using the mountain as a backdrop, corralling them up the mountain. That's an option. See, the thing is, I could have combined the assault and the rescue in one big event, but the risk is higher. But the assault provides a very good distraction and opening for us to do the rescue. Alternatively, we do the rescue separately, which is safer because we only have to worry about that one thing. We don't have to worry about killing everyone else. But then we have to work on a good distraction. And the way that the village is set up is that it's got the big wooden walls all the way around it with the mountain as a backdrop. And there's one big wooden gate. There's really only two directions then you can take the rescued slaves. You can either go up the mountain, in which there's really no escape path. Although I did think about leading them down into the ship in the volcano if we had the key, but I doubt she's going to give us the key until we kill her brother. And then if I did have the key, I would just go down there and, get the vehicle going and get it out of the volcano and then no, that's not going to work. So then, okay, so just leading them out the mountain, that's just not an option. It's just not ever going to work. So then I couldn't involve the golem in just a rescue plan at all because there's too much risk there. He's uncontrollable. I mean, she said he is controllable if she was like right next to him and she was like leading the thing, but she didn't want to do that. So I was like, okay, that's not an option. So then, okay, we have to lead them out the front gate. So how do we lead these slaves out the front gate under our, protection without any hindrances? We don't want to be in the midst of a battle right there while we're leading them out. That's just way too dangerous. We need to do it suddenly so that they don't just execute the slaves or anything like that. So I thought, okay, what about if we work from the inside then? We go back and Rice and I talk to Elaine and say, the negotiations went poorly. We're not going to bring Benny back. So we're trying to bluff that he died in the negotiations or something like that. And, we need more time to regroup and rethink now that we have more intel, blah, blah. We pull some bluff like that. We get maybe a night in the village again, and then we can work from the inside. That would be a good case. That would be a good way to do it. But then that was the plan. That was the plan, by the way. We were going to go inside, Rice and I, work from the inside. Rhaegar was going to wait outside. And Benny was going to be, tucked away somewhere else. Because Benny, when we got outside of the cave, Benny, tripped and fell on his face or something. And he's just like, oh, I tripped, that's all. And nobody believed him. So we started intimidating the shit out of him, saying we're going to, amputate his limbs and use a knife to get the parasite out of his rib cage and shit like that. And so I'm just like, you are You were a captive of a madman who uses a parasite to infect locals and probably controls all their actions. So we really can't trust you no matter what you say. And even you might consciously think that you're helping us, but subconsciously you're not. So you're a liability. And I didn't want to kill him, even though I could have. Easily. We all could have killed him. I didn't want to do that because that's wrong. But it worked with the plan that he not come back to the village with us. So we decided to tuck him away at Gorv's. And we couldn't bring Rhaegar back because they had never met him. So we couldn't bring a stranger in. So he was just going to wait outside. So Rice and I go to the front gates of the village. And a speaker comes out and tells us, asks if we have the artifact. And we say no. And he says that his master says you're not allowed back into the village until you possess the artifact. And there was really, I tried being like, we could just die out here in the, in the wilderness before we even get it. And he went back, he told him that, but nope, still wouldn't let us in. So nothing we could really say would... That's not true. I can't say that. Nothing I could think of would get us in to this village without trouble. Yeah, you could lie, of course. I could have lied and said, yes, I possess the artifact. But then that only leads to bad stuff. We get in there and he probably knows what it's supposed to look like or something, vaguely. We didn't even have anything vaguely similar to what it should look like. So it would have just ended in trouble. So I'm just like, okay, that's not happening. We can't work from the inside, so we have to work from the outside. So I modified my plans a little bit. So basically what it came down to then was something pretty simple. Like I said, it's very difficult. It's very tough coming up with stuff like this. So I wanted to go a bit more simple approach because I think that is in our best favor rather than going something very convoluted. So the plan was Rice would sneak inside. If we had any sort of stealthy character, it would be them. But Rice was the most convicted about getting these slaves out. So he was going to be the inside man. Rhaegar was going to be the distraction that caused them to open the gate wide. He would kind of run and leave an opening. I would deal with the watchmen on the towers, so they would leave the gate open. I would send a signal to Rice. He would escort all the slaves out. Rhaegar would ditch his chasers. We would hide. They would eventually give up. Later, they would find out the slaves are all gone, and we would just be hiding in the jungle. That was the plan, but as I've said many, many times, nothing ever goes to plan. What eventually happened was similar, I guess. We did walk the slaves out the front gate, but there was a bit more bloodshed than I had planned for. So what had happened was, while we were kind of sitting there... I forgot a whole other part of what happened. We had a whole day to kill because we needed nightfall for this to work. So Rice and I decided this was kind of just this was a bit of a metagame, kind of metagame-ish. Let's just do something fun. I told Rice that I wanted to go to the shipwreck in the northeast where he was attacked and recruit who was ever hanging out there. And I think we've concluded, it was definitely some sort of skeletons or wraiths or something like that. But I told Ren, I'm like, you remember the scene, the whole thing in Return of the King, where they were recruit the dead men to fight with them. That's what I want to do. So we head over to the shipwreck, and I shout out, we come in peace, we just want to talk, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. We get within bow range, and we are fired upon. So I use the levitate. I levitate up in the air, and I can kind of see that there's humanoid-esque things on top of the ship. And they're all just looking at me, and they're just kind of pondering me. But they don't fire at me in the air, which was nice. So I float back, and I'm just like, we just want to talk. We mean you no harm. And then I approach, and they fire at me. I actually get hit by an arrow. So I'm like, all right, screw these assholes. So I use psionic spark to light the ship on fire. Burns to the ground like in a minute. And we start sifting through the wreckage. We don't find much. The only thing we really find is this little figurine of a dog that's kind of broken. And as we're looking at it, basically a ghost floats over to us. And I'm not going to attack it if it doesn't attack first, but I also didn't want to say anything, so we just kind of had a stare off. And finally it said that, we've been waiting for the captain. And I'm just like, your captain is never coming back. And I'm just like, it's time to move on. And I rolled very well on my diplomacy, I think. I'm pretty sure it was diplomacy. And he said, you are correct. It is time that I be moving on. And he twirled his fingers, I guess. And he restored the little dog figurine to its original state. And then he departed. And so we wanted to see what this dog figurine was, so I let Rice roll Arcana first, even though his sucks. And he didn't do very well, so he rolled like a 4. So I took it. My Arcana is good, but I rolled a 1. So I basically shattered the dog figurine in my hands. So Rice, immediately just ran after the ghost and was like, hey, we broke your little doggy thing. Can you fix it again? And he was kind of I think he frowned, but he fixed it. And he's like, that is it. That is it. So then Rice put the little dog figurine on the ground. He's like, all right, look at it and figure it out. I rolled a 2. So it's just I don't know. I can't. I should have just taken 10. It's so easy to do, but no. I always forget about that. So anyways, the night came, and we were kind of sitting there in the camp getting ready to do this plan, and a native he was wandering by, I guess. He was poking around trying to see what we were talking about, what we were doing. And he saw, I guess, that we were hanging out with this new dragonborn he hasn't seen before. So he was about to start running back towards the village to tell everyone. So I just mind thrusted him instantly, and he died. So then we started going towards the incursion. And I got into a place. I was hidden right near the gate. I wanted a good vantage point. So I was hidden. Rhaegar was just he was the distraction, so he didn't really need to be hidden at all. And then Rice was going to kind of sneak around to the other side to climb over back where I climbed over that one time. He was spotted, though. And he was spotted right near the dead native that we didn't move or cover or anything. So the watch people immediately started shouting and yelling to the rest of the village, and shit started to hit the fan. The gate opened wide, and a whole bunch of natives started pouring out. I used betrayal on one of the. There was 2 guys in each of the watchtowers. So I used betrayal on one of them, and he just took his blow dart and shot it right into the side of his friend's head, dead instantly. So that kind of started a ruckus. And then they started pouring out of the gate, and Rhaegar was right there, and he's a dragonborn, so he's got the dragon breath thing. So he just rushes right up to the big group of them and just blasts them all with the dragon breath. He kills 6 of them immediately. And I'm like, okay, you need to be a distraction. You need to run. He doesn't run. He just stands there and fights. I take care of the other two guys in the watchtower, no problem. And so Rice is basically clear to go around and climb over. And he does climb over, but he kind of messes it up, and he basically gets like a big, like part of the wall goes through his leg. But he only takes 1 damage, surprisingly. But he eventually does get into the village, and most of the warriors are busy with Rhaegar. I didn't want to do anything more, because I figured anything more might betray my position. Which was kind of funny. There was a bit of like the moment there where as soon as the natives poured out of the gate, 3 of them ran right towards where I was. And I was like, how the hell is that possible? Like, I used betrayal on the one guy, and then I used dishearten on the other 2. They're just dead. How would these guys running out the gate know exactly where I was and just run right to me? It's not like I'm a wizard and I cast a fireball. It's all just mental shit. That's why I like Scions. They're so cool. So he's like, oh yeah, you're right. So everybody just went on Rhaegar. So I just kind of laid low and let Rhaegar handle it all. And he did. He killed pretty much all the ones that came out of the gate. Rice snuck around to where the slaves were being held. He went in there, and he found a young girl and like 4 others of miscellaneous race and gender and age. And he cut all their binds. He freed them all, and Rhaegar just had finished like dealing with all the little warriors. And I levitated up into one of the watchtowers to kind of keep watch. And he started hacking away at the other watchtower like a lumberjack to get it so that it wouldn't quite collapse, but if he wanted to, he could push it in a direction and it would collapse. So, okay. And then we see kind of like two more elite warriors, and by elite I really just mean buff. They were like the barbarians from that shitty movie. They were just, massive. So they both start heading towards the slave tent where Rice is. And I'm like, okay, I have to do something. I can't just let that happen. So they were about 15 squares away. Which is out of the range of most of my abilities, except for Send Thoughts. So I used Send Thoughts on one of the warriors, and I didn't even know if they understood my language or not, so I just said, die, 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 over and over, because it's just like, whatever. And then he started kind of like swatting at the air around his head. So I whispered to Rhaegar, who was right next to me, and I'm just like, start yelling die over and over. And he did. And the one guy got really pissed at this and started charging over towards Rhaegar was. The other guy went into the slave tent. So I figured I did my job. See, that's utility right there. They both are the warriors. They can handle the guys one-on-one. I just did the splitting up. I thought that was good. Okay, so Rice takes on his elite warrior and just wrecks his face. My goodness. There was some Slayer action going on. I don't think I've ever played a Slayer. I might have made one once or twice, but I don't think I've ever played one. But yeah, they are good at slaying. I can assure you of that. High attack bonuses and big damage. One-on-one, they can deal with shit. I mean, I don't know if it's as good as like Ovum one-on-one or anything, but yeah, he definitely could handle himself in a fight. So he dealt with his elite warrior, and then we switched to Rhaegar. Rhaegar did not fare so well. There's a big difference between a paladin and an avenger. Like, Ovum as an avenger his job is to hit shit. He gets to roll, like, one-on-one, he gets to roll twice and take the higher. Like, he gets advantage on every attack roll. It's ridiculous. So his job is to hit shit. Because if you're missing, you're doing nothing. If you're hitting, you're at least doing something. So basically, Rhaegar's issue was he missed almost every one of his attacks. So he went down pretty quickly because this guy was no joke. I decided to not help because I didn't really talk about Rhaegar's backstory or anything, but his philosophy is basically like struggle makes you stronger. So his original when he first talked about making a character, his original concept was an evil paladin, and I'm like, don't do that. That's a bad idea. But he kind of changed it to a bit more of like a paladin that has more of a philosophical code, and that code is that struggle and adversity and hardships make you a stronger, better person. So I'm like, okay, this guy believes in hardship and struggle. I'm not gonna cock block his hardship. If he wants the hardships, there it is. So I let him fight the guy until Rhaegar went unconscious, and he did give him a one good whack. I think he did hit him with a big daily, but he only like bloodied him. So Rhaegar goes down. I use a mind thrust on the guy. I hurt him all right. And so I think he like sees me up in the watchtower and he feels like his head really hurting. He's like, I don't like if he tried to like beat me by bringing me down or what, it just wouldn't have worked. So he started to just rush off back to safety. I wanted to try and kill him, and I definitely could have if I had used Living Missile, if I had used a daily on him, but I didn't want to do that. I used another Mind Thrust. I crit. He still didn't go down, so I was like, he's not having a good night. I did enough. So I climb down, I patch up Rhaegar. He's stabilized at 1. Then we see Rice running out with all the slaves, so I'm like, let's get out of here. But not before I use Psionic Spark to light a couple tents and the walls of the village on fire. Because it's all made out of wood. And there are no more slaves in there as far as I know. And so yeah, burn it up. So we basically run like 20 minutes out of the village. And we set up camp, and that's where we ended. Yeah, so it was an interesting session. It was a problem-solving session, you might say. We didn't solve... Well, we solved one problem. We got the slaves out, but that's not the whole problem, is it? Because they might be infected with a parasite. And we have to get these people to this sister, and hopefully, she has a way of curing them all. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's kind of out of my hands at that point. So then the next problem is the final assault on the village and killing Elaine. Like, it's not one of those situations where it's like a powerful wizard that just has like a Gios and all these natives. Like, if I kill Elaine, like, the parasites don't just go away. Like, it doesn't just end. They're infected. It's like a disease. So I can't just sneak in and mind thrust Elaine into oblivion. It just doesn't work. Like, these natives are all pretty much going to have to die, most likely. But with no walls, with, less forces, they're really just kind of in a bad spot. I think that the golem could probably take care of it by himself at this point. We probably did enough. So it's probably going to be a bit more smooth sailing to get off the island from here, but there'll probably be another complication. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I'm really excited to get off the island. I mean, it's been interesting, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't planning on having, like, a really outdoorsy character here with Rom. Like, he was supposed to be... It was supposed to be kind of a city thing, because that's usually where I have the most fun. And it was going to be interesting playing as Rom because he's a drow. So in a city, that would be... Like, the fact that he's a drow hasn't really come up at all, because we're on a... like a native tropical island. Yeah, so once we get to a city, assuming we get to a city, it'll be pretty interesting what goes down. Yeah, so Charlie Chalk did pretty well for his first 4th edition D&D session. I expected no less. He, like a lot of people that enter into D&D and try it out, including me in one horrific campaign led by Mert, you tend to involve modern technology, modern sensibilities, modern concepts into Dungeons and Dragons. Like, sometimes you don't think of it as like a Tolkien-esque setting. You try to involve your current knowledge to benefit your situation. So, I mean, Charlie Chalk, Rhaegar, he used the term non-polar bonds at one point. So I'm just like, no, that's not a thing that's ever going to happen in D&D. And I mean, I am responsible for doing shit like that at one point. But that was a Mert campaign. I don't know if you can blame me. But I got, I've gotten involved in chemistry concepts within D&D, and it seems cool, but it really does not stay with the setting, and it just, no. So no. What else? I don't know if there's really anything else to say. The 3-man campaign, I think that can work. It's not the preferred number, of course not. I mean, if we had 5, that would be great. But 3 is better than 2. It lets us carry on. It's not the ideal group makeup either. Having a paladin, a fighter, and a scion. We're really just missing like an outdoorsy or a thievy character. My backup character is a thievy character, but then we really miss the kind of control-y stuff, so that's why there are 4. Well, it's not even an issue of that, because you either have more studious concepts, skills, you have physical skills, and you have kind of stealthy skills. It's kind of how it goes, and we kind of have 2 physical guys and a studious guy. Although Rhaegar apparently has a degree in history, so okay. Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen once we get this ship going. If we get this ship going, that's got to be our way off the island. I don't know where we're going to go, if it's our decision on deciding where to go. Probably not. Usually that's not a good idea for a DM. So we'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to it. It's been a good campaign so far, but it's just starting to heat up. Alright, so I guess that is that. So, my name is Mang. This has been Roll Manging for Adrift, Tides of Chaos. And I'll see you fine folks next week.